What if I told you that one of the biggest shifts in the Linux desktop world isn't coming from GNOME, isn't coming from KDE, and isn't coming from Microsoft trying to embrace Linux again, but from a hardware company that decided to build its own desktop environment from scratch? System76's COSMIC Desktop is finally here, and whether you're a long-time Linux user or someone just watching the ecosystem evolve, this moment feels different. It feels like the start of something new. And today, we're diving deep into why COSMIC might be the Linux desktop that truly changes everything. To understand why COSMIC matters, we need to go back a few years. System76, the company behind Pop_OS, has always been more than just another Linux OEM. While companies like Dell and Lenovo sell machines with Linux pre-installed, System76 has built its identity around crafting a complete Linux experience, from firmware to hardware to software. Pop_OS started as a customized, GNOME-based distribution, tuned for developers, engineers, creators, and gamers. It introduced tiling features, workflow optimizations, GPU switching tools, and thoughtful UI tweaks that made it feel purpose-built, rather than generic. But there was always a tension. Pop_OS relied on GNOME, and GNOME has its own design philosophy, its own roadmap, and its own priorities. Over time, the gap between what System76 wanted and what GNOME was willing to support grew wider. Maintaining heavy customizations on top of GNOME became increasingly complex. Extensions broke, APIs changed, workflow decisions upstream conflicted with System76's direction. Instead of fighting that battle forever, System76 made a bold decision. They would build their own desktop environment, not a fork of GNOME, not a skin, not a collection of extensions. A brand new desktop, built from the ground up. That desktop is COSMIC. And here's where it gets even more interesting. COSMIC isn't written in C like GNOME, and it isn't based on Qt like KDE Plasma. It's written in Rust. Yes, Rust, the modern systems programming language, known for memory safety, performance, and reliability. That choice alone signals something bigger than just a new UI. It signals a long-term architectural bet on stability and maintainability. Rust has been gaining traction across the Linux ecosystem, from kernel modules to system utilities, and now it's powering an entire desktop environment. Why does that matter? Because desktop environments are massive pieces of software. They manage Windows, input, compositing panels, applets, system settings, and countless background services. Memory safety issues, race conditions, and unpredictable behavior can lead to crashes and instability. By building COSMIC in Rust, System76 is positioning it as a modern, safe, and performance-oriented platform that can evolve without accumulating decades of technical debt. But let's talk about what you actually see when you boot into COSMIC for the first time. The first impression isn't flashy animations or over-the-top effects, it's clarity. COSMIC feels deliberate. The layout is clean. The spacing is intentional. It doesn't feel like it's trying to imitate Windows or macOS. It feels like it's trying to define its own identity. One of the defining features of COSMIC is its approach to workflow. From the beginning, System76 has focused on productivity. Pop_OS became popular among developers because of its tiling window management capabilities. Instead of manually resizing windows and dragging them around, users could automatically tile applications side by side, stacking them in logical grids that adapt to your workflow. COSMIC takes that philosophy and integrates it deeply into the desktop itself. Tiling in COSMIC isn't an afterthought. It's not an extension. It's not a hack layered on top of a traditional floating window manager. It's a first-class citizen. You can switch between tiling and floating modes effortlessly. You can adjust gaps. You can rearrange layouts. And it feels cohesive because it was designed as part of the core experience, not bolted on later. At the same time, COSMIC doesn't force you into tiling. If you prefer a more traditional floating desktop, it respects that. This flexibility is crucial. One of the biggest mistakes desktop environments can make is assuming there's only one correct workflow. COSMIC recognizes that some users want keyboard-driven tiling precision, while others want a mouse-driven, relaxed experience. Instead of choosing one camp, it bridges both. Another major shift is that COSMIC is built around Wayland from the ground up. Wayland has been the future of Linux graphics for years, but adoption has been uneven. GNOME embraced Wayland early. KDE Plasma followed. Some users still cling to X11 for compatibility reasons. COSMIC, however, is unapologetically Wayland first. It's designed with modern display protocols in mind, including fractional scaling, high refresh rates, and multi-monitor setups. For creators and developers using high DPI monitors, this matters. Fractional scaling has historically been a pain point on Linux. Text could look blurry. Apps could render inconsistently. With COSMIC's modern foundation, scaling feels smoother and more predictable. Multi-monitor configurations, especially mixed DPI setups, are handled with greater consistency. Let's talk about customization, because this is where the Linux community gets passionate. GNOME is often criticized for limiting deep customization without extensions. KDE Plasma, on the other hand, is praised for being endlessly tweakable. COSMIC seems to be carving out a middle path. It offers meaningful customization without overwhelming users with thousands of toggles. Panels can be adjusted. You can move them. You can configure workspaces. You can tweak appearance settings. But the interface doesn't drown you in options. It's curated. It feels like System76 is asking, what are the changes people actually make? And focusing on those, rather than exposing every possible variable. Performance is another area where COSMIC shines. Early impressions suggest that it feels lightweight without feeling bare. Animations are smooth. Input latency is low. Applications open quickly. And because it's built with modern toolkits and Rust, there's a sense that performance improvements aren't just surface-level optimizations, but deeply integrated design choices. For gamers, especially those running Linux through platforms like Steam and Proton, a responsive desktop matters. While gaming performance depends more on drivers and kernel optimizations, the desktop environment still plays a role in how the system feels overall. Cliff's minimal overhead approach means fewer background processes competing for resources. Now let's address the bigger question. Does COSMIC change everything, or is it just another desktop environment in an already fragmented ecosystem? Linux has no shortage of desktops. GNOME, KDE Plasma, XF, Cinnamon, Mate, Budgie, and more. Why add another? The answer lies in ownership and direction. COSMIC isn't just another community project. It's backed by a company that ships hardware with this desktop pre-installed. That vertical integration changes the equation. When you control the hardware and the software, you can optimize across the stack. Firmware updates, driver support, power management, GPU switching, all of it can be tuned specifically for COSMIC. This is something the Linux world has historically lacked compared to Apple. Apple designs macOS and the hardware it runs on. That synergy allows for tight integration and predictable behavior. System76 isn't Apple in scale, but it's applying a similar philosophy within the Linux ecosystem. For pop_OS users, COSMIC represents independence. Instead of relying on GNOME's roadmap, System76 now controls its own destiny. If they want a new feature, they don't have to wait for upstream approval. If they want to redesign a workflow, they don't have to maintain fragile patches. They build it directly into COSMIC. This autonomy also means faster iteration. Instead of adapting to major GNOME releases and then retrofitting customizations, System76 can evolve COSMIC on its own timeline. That agility could lead to quicker bug fixes, faster feature rollouts, and a more cohesive long-term vision. Of course, building a desktop from scratch is risky. GNOME and KDE have decades of development behind them. They have large contributor bases. They've solved countless edge cases. COSMIC is young by comparison. There will be rough edges. There will be missing features. There will be moments where compatibility issues surface. But that's also part of its appeal. Watching a desktop environment grow in real time, shaped by a clear vision, is exciting. The Linux community thrives on experimentation. Some projects fade. Others redefine the landscape. COSMIC has the potential to be one of the latter. Another important aspect is openness. System76 has made it clear that COSMIC isn't just for pop_OS. Other distributions can adopt it. Developers can contribute. It's not a closed ecosystem. That openness could lead to wider adoption beyond System76 hardware. Imagine Fedora shipping an official COSMIC spin. Imagine Arch users packaging it as an alternative to GNOME or KDE. Imagine smaller distributions embracing COSMIC as a modern, Rust-powered default. If that happens, COSMIC won't just be a pop_OS feature. It will be a full-fledged player in the desktop wars. There's also a psychological shift happening. For years, Linux desktops have often been compared to Windows or Mac OS. Can Linux replace Windows? Can Linux match Mac OS polish? COSMIC feels less interested in comparison and more interested in identity. It's not trying to look like Windows 11. It's not mimicking Mac OS's dock and menu bar exactly. It's trying to define what a productivity-focused Linux desktop should feel like in 2026 and beyond. And that's powerful. Because when Linux stops chasing and starts leading, that's when innovation accelerates. For your audience at Linux Chronicle, this moment represents more than just a new UI. It represents a philosophical shift. A hardware company betting on Rust. A distribution stepping out from under GNOME's shadow. A desktop environment built with tiling and Wayland as core principles rather than optional add-ons. Is Cosmic perfect? No, not yet. But perfection isn't the point. Momentum is. Direction is. Vision is. If Cosmic succeeds, it could inspire other companies to invest more deeply in Linux desktop development. It could encourage more Rust adoption in user-facing applications. It could raise the bar for performance and workflow design across the ecosystem. And even if it doesn't replace GNOME or KDE, it doesn't have to. The Linux desktop world isn't a zero-sum game. It's an ecosystem. Cosmic adds diversity, competition, and fresh ideas. That alone pushes everyone forward. The Linux desktop has always been about choice. But every once in a while, a new option arrives that feels bigger than just another checkbox on a download page. Cosmic feels like that moment. System76 took a risk. They didn't just theme GNOME. They didn't just fork an existing project. They started over. They chose a modern language. They designed around productivity. They committed to Wayland. They integrated tiling as a core feature. They aligned hardware and software under one vision. That's not incremental change. That's foundational change. And whether you're a developer, a gamer, a content creator, or just someone who loves watching Linux evolve, Cosmic is worth paying attention to. Because sometimes, the biggest revolutions don't begin with flashy marketing. They begin quietly, with a team deciding to build something better from the ground up. System76's Cosmic Desktop is finally here. And it just might be the Linux desktop that changes everything.